Welcome to Journeys into Enlightenment with Janet. Join Janet and her friends as they gather at the intersection of consciousness and self-experience. What being consciousness in human form is all about. Access heart-centered awareness with them and feel the difference in the moment that will last a lifetime.
Hello and welcome to Journeys into Enlightenment with Janet. I'm Janet Barrett. Thank you for joining me and my episode friend each time as we explore and celebrate being alive. We celebrate being in form and the being within that is without form, our core essence, our sense of consciousness, the collective, the all. Each of us are in our own unique individual experiences of what life is as we share in our human framework. It is what is inside of our humanity that we also share in when being present in our connection to life around us. We are going to use the realities of mask and social distancing in this time of virus to flavor today's episode. My friend and guest, Mari Hall, and I will use our Skype connection to create the reality of an outdoor cafe tucked away in a garden setting. Sometimes Skype really reacts to our recording energies, and it does here. It is part of the magic, and we have done our best to highlight and bring out the best for your enjoyment. Usually for these episodes, I look to bring out the elements of our conversation and influences to help embrace our time together. This time, be sure to read them on the podcast episode page. You know how you can sit outside and enjoy your meal or drink, and the conversation at the next table can come in and out of your awareness? You don't mean to eavesdrop, but the voices and conversation catch your ear? So it is here today. You will realize that our language is filled with metaphors as shortcuts to describing life. You allow yourself to be seduced by the good vibes and what comes into your awareness and unfolds for you as you sit and enjoy the moment and the conversation. And when you leave the garden, you will leave nourished and replete. It truly is magic in the moment. Mari Hall was my guest for episode 34, where we chatted about Reiki as the path of enlightened action. She is a Reiki Master, teacher, author of several books about Reiki, and founder of the International Association of Reiki. She lives overseas for many years, introducing Reiki to Europe. She finally came home to Texas and her family to rest her spiritual and physical bodies. She and I are talking about the many hats or roles we might wear in our lives. Perhaps we can provide answers to whom we each think we are in the scheme of things. We let our identities be as simple as hats in the roles we may find ourselves wearing as we go about daily life. Some we may like, some may challenge us, and none actually divine all the truth of who we are. And what if our changes in our lives were as simple as putting a hat on and taking it off? Mari and I are speaking in metaphor reality. We let the metaphor of the many hats hold for the many roles we play in our lives. So, as you listen in, I want you to just relax and picture yourself sitting outside in a lovely garden bistro. Let's do that now. Just imagine and let it be real. Feel. Inhaling the scents of clematis, jasmine, honeysuckle, and wisteria that fill the air. Feel your heartbeat. There are pots of roses, geraniums, gardenias, and both orange and lemon trees to inhale and enjoy. The scents of sage, rosemary, thyme, basil, parsley, cilantro, and lemon verbena tickle and surround you. Birds are chirping, fountain water trickling, and the gentle breeze and sunlight filters through the huge old magnolia tree. The air is alive as your breath and heartbeat sync up, and you feel no distinction between you and the surrounding nature. There are others drawn to the environment as you are. It comes into your awareness that there are a lot of hats worn by everyone there. Men in ball caps, cowboy hats, military hats, construction hats, and such, as well as women in all kinds of simple and elaborate hats. Some wear fanciful hats, silly hats, business hats, and many are hats you have never seen before. 6 feet away, there is another table where Mari and I are chatting while indulging in sweet tea and munchies. You cannot see us as we are in a hedged alcove, but you can overhear our conversation. You will miss some of what we are saying as our voices filter in and out amidst occasional background sounds. Just two friends who have not talked in a bit. There are the scents of the garden, the gentle breeze rustling through the trees, the birds and butterflies, an occasional bee sipping at the nectar in the blossoms. The sunlight filters through all of it as you sit at your table enjoying your libation and meal. A sense of enchantment, transcendent reality, created for all by our shared sense of wonder and magic, and always our heart is present.
Hello, Mari. Thank you for joining me today.
It's a pleasure, as always, Janet. Thank you so much.
Well, we're going to see what happens here in the next hour or so, and hopefully we'll both have a really outrageously good time and let the technical stuff fall away. So we're going to be talking about what's under a hat. And a hat is the roles we play, etc. I was looking up with Google, Mari, about, we say about the hats we wear, the roles we play, and why there's a difference. But they use them interchangeably, this statement. So when we were talking originally, you said this came to you. And do you have a sense now of what you were feeling about the hats that we wear?
I think through our lifetime, we pick up a new hat here and there simply because as children we watch how our parents change as they parent us, or people around us are different as an adult, as a parent figure, as a teacher. Different hats we use as children in order to have friends, what we must do to have the friends we want to have, or to various things like that. But then we also start doing that ourselves. Like we don't come with a book for our parents to figure out what to do with us, and we certainly don't have one about what to do with our parents either. So I think it's an adjustment thing that we do, is to say, okay, I'm going to be a good little girl now so that my mom and dad will be happy with me, or that I will have friends, or we've had some trauma in our life, and so we have a different hat about how people are, the world is, etc. And we can do different things in order to survive or to come through those periods. So what I was noticing about me in particular was, because I haven't been able to work for a while in my recovery, I was missing my teacher's hat.
Okay.
I'm used to working with people. I love working with them. I love having people come and have me work with them. And there was a void there, so it was like I hung up my hat when I started with my recovery in my back. And then just as I was getting so much better and ready to get back, well, COVID came. So I didn't really get to take my hat off the hat rack. So now how am I going to be? What am I going to do? And of course, playing with you, I have to bring a whole hat box full of hats, because we have a tendency to go from point A to point Z very fast.
You got that. All right, everybody. So you can see there's a lot of information about the hats we wear being the roles we play. And we talked a couple of months ago with Jennifer Foster about the stick self and how the power needs of people and the role that we will play and in being in alignment with all the elements of self. So, well, we're going to talk about a lot of different things today. So let's just look to be present. So just notice your breath. Doesn't have to be any kind of special breath. Just notice that you're breathing. And then notice your heartbeat. Well, those two are so important. Without one or the other, you wouldn't be alive. So, and bringing your awareness of the breath through the heart, and the heartbeat through the breath, we're bringing our awareness of being into the form. And it's pretty simple. We just become present, which means letting go of our story enough and put it over there, and all those hats and the roles that we're going to talk about. And just allow yourself to come into your awareness of your beingness, of being essence, of being light, being spirit, being God, being you, whatever your reference is. Now, this is an active transformational state. So as we open into this reality, well, the things that will come to you in awareness will be opening up. Change is possible in how you'll reconfigure those hats and roles. So just notice over the next while with Mari and I, as we just allow ourselves to let go, or to just let, as we talked with John J. Murphy a couple weeks ago, in the art and discipline of just let. Let be, let go, let see, let flow. Just be present. And this is such a marvelous time to be with oneself in a user-friendly situation. And this is the time of virus. Beats cholera, I think, but so in allowing ourselves to just come to a rest. Now notice how quiet that is, Mari. That's a quiet field, isn't it?
It sure is.
Yeah. Well, I think what's fun, because you have that wonderful Texas framework, and I can just see the ladies with all their different Sunday hats and different hats and gloves and knit tea or whatever it is you're munching on in your break time. So,
sweet Southern tea,
yeah. So, the sweet tea. So we wear lots of different hats over the course of a life. Right? And like you talked about, when we were doing our work and noticing how many hats you can go through so quickly, how many roles that we're busy playing. And it's really a lot of assumption. I think that's what Jennifer had been talking about, is the discrepancy between what your truth is and speaking from that place and the veneer, the social development that social mask that we can wind up hiding and trying to sustain when it really isn't ours at all. Yeah. What do we want to do with those? What comes to mind?
I taught this weekend for the first time.
You put your teacher hat back on, huh?
Yeah. Well, no, it was interesting because doing that every time they wanted me to have that hat on, I would just smile and breathe and say it's just about being present in the moment. It's not about healing anyone. It's allowing them to heal in the presence of all that is. And you're a conduit for that energy, but they are as well. So it was nice to be able to just step back and demonstrate that just by my own willingness not to pick the teacher's hat up and to keep empowering them as well. Because I think sometimes when we're teachers, we forget that they're teaching us to
Well, I think you're kind of articulating the difference. When you say teacher, it feels like that has a certain kind of almost rigid hat. I mean, set to it. And when in truth, the teacher is through being, right? Instead of educating through, let me tell you how to do it, you be it, and that carries through. That's radiated out in your field, and the student, the mentor, that relationship. You can feel how it kind of gets looser, so that you're more speaking out of a truth, as opposed to you need to learn this kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I say it's something I have learned through the practice. The practice teaches us, and I can tell you out of my experience what happens for me. But in order for you to have your truth, you're doing the work yourself. So I enjoyed being connected with them and watching them grow before my eyes, and have the awe about being able to be the instruments for energy, for healing, so, and I've missed that. I've missed being with people like that.
Yeah, I can feel that. All right, everyone. So just be noticing. Maybe we can define or label or address some of the hats that people wear that maybe they're not so aware that they hold. Right? We have we're all children, so we all came out of something. We're always in a relationship, right? So if we had parents around us, or if we, whatever our circumstances were, we were a child at one time. We may now be an adult, or we're an adult that really accesses the child space. So there you're immediately in two roles. Right, you're in two hats, and so is there? So let's see. What comes to mind is maybe some of the different hats, and then what is the hat? Right, the hat of all hats is your beingness, and that's maybe you're wearing many different ones, but that one seems to be. Yeah. Okay. So what kind of roles or hats do you see people wearing that maybe they're not aware of so much?
The helper.
The helper. Okay.
They feel like they need to help everyone. They have to almost, I wouldn't say save the world, but they need to be able to help people.
The caregiver, the
caregivers, yeah, and of course we've had, with this COVID, we've got a lot of caregivers out there. They're on the front line, and what they have to do, and they have to mask up and suit up when they're in the hospital, or whatever. So that whole thing is just amazing, and the responsibility that's felt not only as the nurse or the physician in the hospital. So they have that role or that hat, but also then when they go home, or do they go home because they don't want to infect their own families or children. So that's a very split hat that they're wearing, one here and one there. And so caregiving is a big hat.
Oh, I love what you're bringing up, because it's come into our collective consciousness so strongly about the caregivers, about first responders, and that protective gear. And so, like, the hat has become the protective gear. It has come down, and it's interesting to think that there's a quality to the hat. That might be there or need to be there, because I can see a lot of beat up hats. I can see hats. They got holes in them. The feathers are dragging, whatever the shape of the hat is, but there are a lot of worn ones.
I have to tell you something. Just saw you wearing the most marvelous dragon hat. because you're so much fun. I can just see you doing that.
Well, thank you. So I need some fire breathing, that's for sure. So here, everyone, here's an opportunity. Let's get creative and let's embrace this, because one thing that has had so much worn energy is this caregiver, right? And whether it was about taking care of COVID participants, patients, or whether it's just taking care of family members, or, you know, and the added stress, here you are a caregiver, and you've got someone in a nursing home and you can't get to them, or in a hospital, you can't get to them. So everybody, let's just open the closet door up and see your hats. And see which ones you got in there, and see which ones are, check them each out, take a moment, and see what kind of hat it is, and if it's worn, or if it's just a memento of a good time, or, you know, if it's an empowered object. How many are really present for you? And notice you got the hat, and maybe you have the matching outfit. And that's part of the role, because one thing actors do is you give them the clothing, you give them some kind of prop, and they inhabit the role. All of a sudden, it has an anchor for them. And this is what we do. How many of us have our business outfit we wear, you know? And,
absolutely, yeah.
And we put that on and we go do business, and whatever the role might be. So, everyone.
We have the briefcase.
You have the briefcase, totally the prop, you know? And you hope for a good time and magic in there. So just notice those hats. Now, it's okay if you've got hats in there you didn't even know, because that's kind of what we're talking about here. All the roles that we play, and how we dress up. And I think you brought a good point up, is how we wear more than one at the same time.
Right.
And so we might not be noticing one over the other, or realize that we've got several hats on at the same time. And so let's just let something loosened up a little bit, Mari, and I want to make sure we...
Well, you know, it reminds me that, you know, Facebook just did this thing where you can create your own avatar.
Right. Okay.
And so they give you clothes that you can put on them, and hairdos, and people would just going crazy to make their avatar. And now there's even a talking avatar. Oh my heavenly days, you know, so we can hide behind the avatar.
Well, see, now that's a good point. It can become a disguise, those hats sometimes.
Absolutely.
And I think that speaks to where it's a public performance, social now,
yes.
And it keeps the distance, right?
Right.
And how that becomes part of our story, that we have to hide or protect who we are. And always, my thing is, it's learning how to be who you are into the situation. But that fluidness of being able to say, ooh, I want to say this now, but if I do, my head will be chopped off, as opposed to, well, I can think what I want, and you can think what you want, and you just do what you want, and I'll be over here, kind of thing. You know, you have to learn how to navigate being that truth.
You can have a navigator hat.
Yeah. Okay, there's a navigator.
With a compass.
Plop it down on your head. Yeah, or put the wheel in your chest, right? You know, where you go.
Steer yourself.
So we've got navigators, and we've got caretakers, and we've got dragons, and what else might be there that you notice about people in all these years?
You know, this morning I had breakfast with my daughter and a friend, and we were social distancing, and we were outside. So I got up to go into the restroom, and it was like, all of a sudden, in some people's eyes, they'd given me this hat that said, "This lady's old, you better help her." I said, wait a minute. I was like, where's that old hat? Just because I have gray hair doesn't mean I'm crippled. Or, you know.
Well, thank you for reminding me.
Are you okay? Are you okay? Well, yeah.
So that's why we have people around us to remind us. Well, that illusion in the mirror is so true. Either you can recognize yourself or not as you get a little more distance on you between epochs. How many you're in, but and remember, and so we do. So there's the illusion the hat provides. There could be safety in that, don't you think?
I think so, yeah. There is a safety in that, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So, since we're not going out and using our social performance mask at work, let's say, because I think the truth is a lot of people they embody their mask or their hat so much, their role so much, that they say, I'm this at work and I'm this at home. And they have differences between the two.
Of course.
And so then there's, in that play, so people aren't getting exercise. They're not exercising that social quite so much because they're not in a work situation, right? Or work has changed. And that's got to change. That, the hat, maybe we've got a hat that can change itself. More
magic hat. That's
the magic hat, So if we start to get less attached to what something looks like too, I think that's important. So.
Absolutely. What's been interesting also when parents are home because of the offices aren't open, so they've had to come home, and then they have been involved in homeschooling.
Yeah.
So now they're trying to work and be their work self in a place that's not work but home, and there may be their partner's working as well. So now it's all about how to establish boundaries. But then you have children that have to be homeschooled, and they have a set way how mom and dad are supposed to be. And now they're teaching or trying to teach them or to figure out how they do
how to teach them.
How to teach them.
Yeah. We had talked about how you can pass your child off to a school system that's supposedly better equipped than you to deal with whatever your child is about. And we have this illusion of what our child is. And now we're home with them all day long, and now we can gain some appreciation of what the teacher or what a school is dealing with, because we only had them for this, an hour, 2 hours a day, and the quality of that. So, all right, let's see what else we're noticing. Oh, I think that's interesting. So, this conversation is going to air probably in the future. We're recording ahead of time. And right now, there's a lot of disrupt in the cities.
Oh my gosh, yes. I was just thinking about that.
Yeah. And what comes to mind is how our roles we play, the hats we wear, can be misunderstood.
Absolutely.
That everyone's going to look at what they think they're seeing and project and act accordingly, and it may not be anything that is what you're about. And so we have our hats of illusion. We have what happens when your hat meets my hat and it's at a different place.
I'm different and I matter as much as you do.
Yeah, so yes. And being able to appreciate something. Everybody's definition of beauty is different. There are certain guidelines we find common that are pleasing, proportions, but it's like, what if someone reacts to your hat in fear or alarm or something, right? And that's just what you put on. That's not who you are.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's a bit scareful. It's scary, what I was saying, someone was asking me today, it was at breakfast. I said, here we have been all sequestered and praying that somehow we get the message about peace, love, and brotherhood, and that we're praying or holding space for the world to be different, and that we see that we need to work together in order to create a place that we all can live in sanity of some sort. And then it's almost like in one breath, all that hatred that has been pushed down, that we kind of pushed down because we wanted to create the illusion of peace and happiness and joy.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden it's up. It's just really up in our faces, because it's about understanding our darkness and our light. And it's not going away. It seems like it's getting bigger. So how do we respond to that? Or how do we hold ourselves steady in the midst of all these things?
I think perhaps part of it is acknowledging what we got in that closet that we don't even know we have.
Right. It's doing our own work.
And then getting rid of what doesn't serve, or appreciating that was maybe someone else's viewpoint, that we put on for a certain time to fit in or whatever, and then we couldn't wait till we could get rid of it, and we've just stuffed it in the corner, and all the energy and emotion that role is about is still sitting there. And I think what we were looking at was how to let go. Do you need the hat? If you're coming out of your honesty, right? And that is the umbrella that all this is in, and it's also the core essence that's there. Is that if there's no difference, if we can be that permeable and in integrity and also transparent to ourselves, that's the word. And acknowledging these things that are in us. And if there's nothing to feed it, if it just sits there. And that's kind of the nice thing about a hat. It's an object, right? Yeah. And you can take it and put it over there and create some bigger view. So if the hat is self, it's a part of self, and consciousness is present. Consciousness looks at what that is and goes, I think it's time for that to go, which is kind of where we're at, is where we have the projection is that all these systems are under stress and out of alignment. And that is still coming from the wound in each of us. And until that cleanses to a certain place, until that is brought into awareness, because you can't change things you're not aware of. And you can all collectively go, okay, or enough in the majority, or there is a majority, or there is 99.9%, what those numbers are at to change the awareness and in this tremendous consciousness leap that's available to us and that we're experiencing. And, whether it's people, we had, this is June 2nd, we're recording. In the last few days in Portland, we've had marches and stuff. And last night, people were out, and the quarantine, well, between that and the curfew, this was like 11 o'clock curfew had been set for 8 o'clock. And everybody was contained, but they made it a sit down. It wasn't about violence. It was about music, and it was about life, and it was about everybody kind of having this release point, right, of just their sheer frustrations of what's been happening and an inability to express. And so there was a lot of probably just crisis, and a release of it. And then how deep is there? Is there more still there that needs to come out? And it felt very healing what we were noticing. So.
Some people have said it's not really about anger, it's about grief. There's a deep grief inside so many of us Poor thing. We've just gone through 3 months of losing people, watching 100,000 people perish from a virus just in our country. And the toll of that, there's a deep grief there. And sometimes grief is expressed as anger. You get that pushback, you get angry at how dare this happen, and we have to find someone to blame, someone to focus our grief, which turned out to be anger. And when I read that, I thought, that is probably really true for a great deal of people. There's a grief.
I think you're. That's a really good point. So, if grief is a hat, and so we got a veil on the hat, so we can't really see grief.
Nobody can see us in mourning, yes.
Yeah, so it's about taking the veil off. So, the thing about a veil is, depending on its thickness, you can see through it or you forget that it's even there.
Right.
And then when you take the hat off, then you maybe some people hide in their hats because they have such a sensitivity to seeing things or experiencing things without the hat. Maybe that's part of it.
They become vulnerable.
Yeah. So
it's almost too much. You come out into the light and your eyes can hurt because it's too bright. So you need a sun hat.
I think we just need to have our auras just a little bit more holding awareness for us. I mean, we're all familiar with the idea that we have a field around us, and we got to work that thing a little more, bring a little more awareness to it. That it's there to
polish it up,
protect us, but also enrich our life. Or what's the point to having it? So, all right. So, what else do we notice about?
I think the majority of hats that I would wear in my lifetime really keep me from being truly who I am.
Keep you from being true to who you are?
Or truly who I am. Who am I? And in the scheme, the large things.
Okay.
Who am I? And if I have to wear a hat for whatever reason, it can be for fun, certainly. But I'm just saying, if we have a tendency to adopt different ways we have to be in different circumstances, how often are we really being authentic?
Yeah, right.
That who we want? Isn't that what we really want? Anyway, we want people to love us for who we are. But we maybe are not presenting the truth of who we are.
Well, that brings a couple of different things to mind. So there's the hat. And you can be so seduced almost by the hat.
Oh, sure.
Whatever it represents. And, it's kind of like the snake charmer of energy. It feels like, okay, here it is. And you put it on and you realize it's not at all what you thought it was.
Well, of course
it's really a crown of thorns. It's
yeah.
And then you're kind of stuck. And so everyone, let's just be noticing the things that we thought were easy to take on and off and aren't. And what it'd be like to not be attached to things that you thought were charming and maybe you're looking a little worn and because they weren't meant to last the lifetime. I think that's part of it also. Because you talked about different times in your life and we gain these different places. So I would presume as we mature into who we can be in our truth, that what was important once might not be now. And we want to use that in a user-friendly way. We don't want to judge ourselves for what is that? Who? But we've all had that place where we went in the closet and went, oh my gosh, what was I thinking when I bought that? It was on sale. Oh, great. It was a good deal. Well, it wasn't really a good deal, But people are that way. We acquire things that, for whatever was going on in the moment, met some need that was like, later on was like, oh, that was just
that probably explains all those handbags I have in my closet. I just keep wagging the same one around.
Really, how you get one and you wear it to death, right?
Yes.
It does everything, and then there's not another season where you can get that in an updated color. It doesn't. Yeah,
the same thing with the hats. The hats and the purses go together.
Hats go together. So for all the men and the listeners, maybe you don't collect hats or have hat fetishes, and we'll just leave you to that.
Well, they wear a lot of those, different ball caps, different caps.
Oh, yeah. I could go right now. I probably got 30 in my wardrobe. Now, the ball caps were because of jobs, and they were the token, offering with a T-shirt or something. And so when you think of, and those each represent a moment of time, right? And in appreciating them, they have no meaning to anyone else but you. Because of what they represent. And I think, when you start hearing comments from people, especially your loved ones, they go, that's looking a little warm. And you can't see it. You just...
because it's one of your favorite ones. You've worn it since you were in high school.
Right. And like my husband, who's so good with his clothing, he's wearing... he's about 66, and he's got clothes in there from high school. He hasn't changed a lot. Let's just embrace being present and see as we're allowing all this to unfold and open up and take the illusions off. So we put a little magic back into it because we've worn our magic out in some areas, I suppose. And we're getting more in alignment with the truth. What would it be like to just feel within yourself that shift from, this is old, and just let it go. Give it away. And what it's like to pass on that hat or that role. You may want to just destroy it, let the energy come apart, because it might really, every man's trash is another person's treasure idea, but it's also when you've got
the energy of that, if you think about the energy that's in your hat, and how you have to be as a whatever, and you pass it on. Here I am. I've got my hat, and now I'm going to give it to my daughter. Oh, my heavenly days.
You can feel, that's where I was going. It was like, no.
I could just feel it. It's just like, no, honey, please don't even do that. Please look at me like I'm stupid, so I stop,
I don't want to pass any of that on to the next person. And it wouldn't be that good a match even if it's genetic, because it's still going to be hit and miss, right? I mean, there's a lot of themes to your hat that's going to work for your daughter, for say. But there's nothing you want to just, you're aware of what's woven in there. And when you're aware of what's woven in, the intensity, the energy, the emotions, whatever, it's like, no, let's get you something new.
Right, let's do something like that, yeah.
Maybe do a little trim or something, but
really?
I don't want you to put this on. And we do that. See, I think that's truth, is we inherit, right? And we're going to solve what you couldn't do, kind of thinking. And all that gets confusing because it just, you become the caretaker of the clan, of the story,
Yeah, the story. You become the caretaker of the story.
Right. You pass the flame on, and one thing about a flame, that's changing all the time. But, when you take on the treasure chest, That's another thing. Oh, my.
There's always, there's a thing about appreciation of your past and to understand it's in the past, and what's important is right now. When I get up out of bed in the morning, I don't want to necessarily put on the hat before I take in my shower. But a lot of people do because they're so used to just saying, okay, and you just write into your role, before you've even had your first cup of coffee or whatever,
Oh, I think that's a great awareness about how automatic and habituated they are.
Sure.
And then if it doesn't feel right, you just kind of
swish it around.
And you go, no, it doesn't fit anymore. We're so thinking that's us. Yeah. And I love how we've brought all this awareness to what we do. Okay. So everybody, just be noticing how many. So if I say, how many hats do you wear in a day? Just let the number show up. Could be 5, could be 1, could be 300. It doesn't really matter. What you're looking at is all the different senses of yourself that you embody all at the same time. And how distracting or disheveling that can be to holding yourself together as thought that you are you. And what it would be like to maybe just take that number down. So just notice, how many hats can you wear comfortably at the same time and be in your truth? There we go. Because we don't care how many hats you wear. What we're each looking for is the embracing that it's enriching who we are. That the role we're going to play, or the roles, or the essence of who we are, is expressing in any format. Because I think we wear different hats for different occasions.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. And I think what's enjoyable is the idea that taking something that could be definitely a heavy premise, how you show up in the world and what you're doing, and bringing this lightness to it, Mari. That's as if we let it be something else in a different form, like a hat or a role that we might play, or your breakfast roll, your croissant or your eclair, whatever it might be, is that is a way of being actively transformational in a reality that allows for that. So maybe let's just go to the store, the dress shop, or wherever the haberdashery, and what it would be like to pick out that hat, the hat, or a couple of hats. And when you take that hat up, all the rest of them kind of will disappear or transform into what they can be, down to the essence. And that it's not something that you have to be attached to in the way that you were before we just started this discussion. Because right in this moment, we're allowing those things. Could be socks. How many of us have tons of socks that we don't wear, got holes in them, but you don't get rid of them, etc., etc. It could be something that you wear, your favorite coat. Oh, that suede coat. What about that leather jacket that's just falling apart? I mean, whatever it is that you think you're holding it as important, as representing who you are and what you feel like when you're in that outfit. And that's where this comes into play, is what you feel like you become and express as that. when you feel tough. Tough may be important because you don't feel so tough in your life. So a little bit of edge doesn't hurt, right?
Oh, give you an edge.
Yeah. So if you like something soft and pretty and frilly and ribbons and all that, maybe that's because you appreciate what that adds to a life. So we're not judging any of these, right, Mari? We're just...
No, just watching.
Yeah, we're just... Yeah. So we love whatever it is, but we want to be in awareness, and this is a time of awareness. The time of viruses of awareness. How we relate to each other. How we relate to ourselves, ultimately, always that.
Oh my gosh, yes, how we relate to ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's almost like my motto now is don't take myself so seriously.
Ooh, I like that hat.
It's just, my goodness, I'm 75 to give myself a break.
You know how I can see your hat. It's like a little beanie, and it has those on screws.
Oh, that thing that turns around like.
Well, there's that, but this is where you have like the Jack in the Box that comes out on the spring.
Oh yeah.
There's like an eyeball on the end, and you have several on your hat. You're silly. You have all eyes everywhere. I like that.
I wouldn't mind just being silly. You know, I think to have a period of time where I'm just silly and enjoy being silly and not thinking I don't care if anybody's watching me be silly. That'd probably be very good for me.
Well, I think you bring up a good point. So what if we wear a hat that we wouldn't necessarily, we would just think or say, oh, I can't wear that. Right? But that is really what you lust for. I mean, you can feel that deep, oh boy, that would be so neat. I can't even go there. No. You know, and the idea, right, you know, in our stories of these roles we're playing. So everybody, there's a hat for you. Just allow the silly hat to show up. Whatever your silly hat is about.
You know, have you heard of the Red Hat Society?
Oh, right. Yes.
So they all dress with their red hats and purple blouses, and they all look alike.
Yes. And they didn't really care what people think, but they're safe in the group.
Yeah, the group embraces them. I just think it's wonderful.
They agree.
Yeah, I never got a red hat.
Well, we'll have our own group, sweetie. We can.
But I do like being able to, you know, eat dessert for breakfast and color outside the lines and all those things.
Yeah,
that's fun. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's powerful stuff. Well, does it feel like we've kind of put a question out there and answered it, and then?
Yeah, I just think that when we're younger, we have more of a tendency to have to live our lives a certain way, or how we're brought up, or how we look at a movie and think that that's what the epitome of a mother is, or a businesswoman. And as we get older, we start to make changes about ourselves. But, you know, we still, a lot of the times, dependent upon how other people think or feel about us. And we're always looking for love on the outside. You know, it's like, where is the answer? And the truth is, it's inside. When we go inside and we can love ourselves as much as we want to be loved by anybody else, if not more, then it doesn't really matter. There's a sense of, oh, this is it. And it's just getting there, you know.
Yeah. So everyone, just notice that what Mari's sharing with us. So what I saw, Mari, was a hat that, you know, we put on our head, and it helps protect our brain and look stylish and all that. Just dematerializing and being absorbed in to the heart.
Mm-hmm.
And that is experiencing whatever anyone's idea of beauty is breathing it in and feeling it. And if you hold something with beauty, respect, I think, is inherent in that it's precious and you wouldn't want to destroy it. Though there are some people that see beauty and they do want to mar it, they want to destroy it. But I think the majority for us is that if we hold something in beauty, and which each of us are, we are a thing of beauty. We are a body of beauty, no matter what the outside looks like. Is that the respect and the love and the wisdom of what age can bring to us if we're paying attention, and that we embody all those challenges that we've ever placed, or all those hats we've ever worn. And some people like the cantankerous hat, and some people the rubbing face hat, and that kind of stuff. But there's just different ways to experience being alive. And just make sure that it's the way you want it to be. And not from an ego place. From as essence expressing.
I have such a strange sense of humor.
Your silly hat's still on. Okay.
I still are, yeah, probably so. But, they were saying the things you can do during COVID is you can clean out your closets and go, down size. And it's all really good things, but where do you take everything that you've taken out of your closet? All those hats could have a place to go. And I was thinking about the Goodwill store when it opens finally. There could be a whole lot of hats hanging up in that store. And you got to be careful, not to get like the Mad Hatter. I can see the big eyes just going, hats! Look at the hats! Oh my goodness. Because it's something different than what we have, and we think that might fill the bill.
Well, I think it's like anything. We have stuff, you clear it out, and then you have a place for new stuff. But the new stuff holds awareness.
Absolutely.
And it's in a different state of that old stuff. And people have this idea that it's going to be the same. And we're saying, no, it's not. Is that in what we've just been able to observe in some way, it's different. And what you choose to do with it can incorporate whole new habituated responses and stuff. As we say it does. So you're not the same as the last time you got something. And so, yeah, I can see the truckloads going to Goodwill and Salvation Army and those places, and just having to be with oneself as we've had to be with ourselves.
Absolutely, yeah.
And what we do with it, and we can expect it'll flow in all kinds of different directions, and we have to hang in there, right? We don't have to. We can just blow ourselves.
We don't have to. We choose to. We choose that. I think the nicest thing I have to say to you is finding playmates to play with that are fun.
Yeah.
Even though they challenge you to be real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's the one thing I enjoy about being with you. is the challenge and the fun that I experience living life from a different perspective.
Totally. Right? Back at you, babes. Well, it's nice when wisdom is present. Right? And what it took to get to that place. And in realizing the wound becomes the gift at some point if we're fortunate. And that the wisdom is what comes from the gift. and seeing, experiencing the balance and the transition. And that's transcendence, when you can take a wound and create the gift out of it. And that's in allowing yourself to be present and embracing. There's no resistance in that. You just go, whoa, that feels hard won, and it's all right, because then you deeply respect yourself. You're appreciating what you've created and how you've crafted it. And all of this is about worth. And so that any hat you have, make sure it is worthy of you.
Oh, wonderful. That's a wonderful ending.
I think that's pretty good there. All right, sweetie. Thank you so very much, Mari.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm looking forward to playing with you again.
Yeah, let's do that some more.
And I'm going to send you a picture of me in a hat, and I think it'll make you laugh.
Okay. All right. I love it. All righty. Thanks so much. Till the next time.
Thank you, honey.
Thank you for sharing this reality with Mari and I. You can enjoy all the usual additional elements that make up this podcast episode, including my blog at www.janetandbeyond.com. We look to enjoy a meditation from interlude and internet retreat the next time. You can reach Mari at her website, www.marihall.com, and at her email, Mari, M-A-R-I, at marihall.com. She is happy to answer your questions about Reiki. We will leave you enjoying the scents of the garden wafting in the air, filled with only the beauty that can be found in life. And remember, you hold this time together in your heart always. It is yours to recall into awareness at any time. Thank you for joining me here at Journeys to Enlightenment with Janet. A new episode is released every 2 weeks. Any questions or thoughts or guests you'd like to suggest, you can email me directly at janetandbeyondpodcast@outlook.com. For more information about all the elements that make up each episode, they are on my podcast page at my website, www.janetandbeyond.com. While there, you will also find information about my other podcast show, Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet, and all about my work with clients. You can sign up to receive my regular weekly blog, Life in the Beyond, Journeys into Enlightenment. If you're looking for other regular opportunities to sit in heart-centered awareness with myself and others, you can join us in my Fuzzy Photons playground groups I offer on Wednesdays, live interactive space via Zoom video conferencing. You can follow each episode of this podcast series on my YouTube channel, Journeys into Enlightenment with Janet Barrett. Till the next time, notice what feels different right in this moment. It is real, and it can last a lifetime.